staff, working with new students, and getting them admitted.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Zach Johnson. I'm an admissions counselor here at Indiana State. I've been here for just about over a month and a half, so I'm very new, but I did just recently graduate college, so I still have that kind of experience fresh in my mind. So yeah, it's really good to be here with you all.
Hi, everyone. I am Dr. AJ Hobson. I serve as the Interim Dean of Students here at Indiana State University. I've been here for a little over 4 years, but I've spent more than 20 years in higher education. And I come to you from Canton, Ohio originally. So I am not a Hoosier, I'm a Buckeye by birth, sorry everyone. But I don't support Ohio State, just so you know. But I'm here to really, I'm a Bobcat. So if you're from Ohio, you know what that means. I am here really to talk and answer questions about student life and what it really is, what our support services for our students are. So it's good to see you all, though I can't see you. It's good to be on the panel.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And thank you for being here and taking time out to be a part of our webinar tonight. I'm really looking forward to our discussion. But to get us started, I do want to pose a question to you all. I want to know what you all think sets Indiana State apart from other institutions, not only in Indiana, but maybe just the Midwest in general. What sets us apart as an institution?
Okay, I'm gonna say it. Our students set us apart. Truly, our students come here. You know, I'm a first generation college student. We have a lot of first generation college students. We have a lot of students for whom going to college, much like when I went to college, can change the trajectory of their life after this. And I think that is most assuredly the thing for our students who are giving back, students who are connected. So for me, what sets ISU apart is our students, which also means that the folks that our students are coming here and connecting with. So our faculty, our staff, and then their peers, the other students. That's what sets ISU apart, in my opinion.
Regina or Zach, you want to build off of that a little bit?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, that's what I was going to say, students. But, I will have to say, too, that, not necessarily that sets us apart, in terms of like in the Midwest area, but in terms of maybe the state. We have a nice size. We're not necessarily the smallest institution. We're the largest institution in the state, but our size is really nice. Our location is really nice. We're, on the border of Illinois, honestly being right along I-72. Students can really get to us pretty quickly and easily. So the fact that we are a decent size and medium-sized institution, so smaller class size is definitely the close attention. You feel comfortable coming here if you are a first generation or if you're not a generation student. We attract, like AJ said, such great students that the community that we have here really builds off of each other. So the size is definitely wonderful. Our location is a great place, being super close to a lot of your cities. So that's my two things. I'm gonna say our size and our location.
I have to say something that sets us apart is our campus. It's a really good, talking about size again, it is a really good size physically, from like the south end of the campus to the north end. It doesn't take very long to walk, only about 15 minutes, and that's if you're kind of at a turtle pace too. So yeah, definitely our campus is really lovely. Our facilities are great too. So yeah, I think that's what I'd say.
Awesome, thank you. And I will kind of echo what all of you all have said. I've been lucky enough to work with all sorts of students, from first year students to professional grad students. And we just have a wonderful, I think, campus population, just full of really great, awesome students. And it is a beautiful campus. And it's a perfect size too. If you're not looking for a super large institution, an institution that feels a little bit more like a family, then Indiana State, I think, is definitely that. So one of the common things that we heard in our RSVPs for this event is just the overall mystery and overwhelmingness of college admissions, right? It's an overwhelming process for all involved, for the students, for the families. So Regina and Zach, I would love for you all to talk a little bit about what the admission process is at Indiana State and what that looks like for students kind of from start to finish.
Sure, I'll go ahead. Our main requirement for admission is that you obtain a 2.5 cumulative GPA on a 4.0 scale. And then, of course, you want to fill out our application. It's just indstate.edu/apply, really easy link. And then we, of course, would process your application. You'd also want to be sure you send us your high school transcript as well. Well, you'd have your school send us your high school transcript so that it is official. And then from there, like I said, we'll process your application. We try to get admissions decisions out as quickly as we can because we are on a rolling admissions process. So yeah, and then after that, after you'd be admitted, you could of course come and participate in one of our campus visits. We are still hosting on-campus campus visits. If you wanted to come, we would give you a tour, and then you would also sit in on a presentation with one of the admissions counselors, like myself. You could do that, and then you would apply for our scholarships and all that fun stuff. So that's kind of our admissions process. It's fairly straightforward, I would say.
Are there
I can add a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to add, there's a couple things that you mentioned, Zach. One, we're rolling admission. And so there's a lot of fancy terms, like the process in and of itself can sometimes be overwhelming. Each institution has application processes that are different. So, Zach mentioned that rolling admission. And so what that would mean is that as soon as a student applies, we will take the time to review them at the moment. So some institutions will hold all their applications and then review kind of in one thing, or we'll make a decision all at once. So depending on the institutions you're looking at, you'll want to kind of investigate what that looks like. But as Zach mentioned, we are rolling, so we do it all the time. Another piece of the puzzle that he didn't mention, which is wonderful, is that he did not mention anything about test scores. So we are a test optional institution, meaning that if a student would love to submit them, we will accept them and use them as part of the evaluation process, but you do not have to submit them for admissions decisions. I think that is also key to know, because some institutions, a lot of institutions this year due to the pandemic have moved in that direction. And so test optional, or they have changed their policy to be more flexible. But when it's not pandemic time, some institutions require that test score. We were test optional prior to the pandemic, and we'll continue that process. Students will not be required to submit those tests. Now, he mentioned scholarships. We have some awards that if you have a high test score can increase your odds being a recipient of those. But once again, it is not a requirement to receive any scholarships as well.
Awesome, thank you all. Are there any programs on campus that require a separate admission process?
Yes, there are a few. So our biggest one that we get a lot of questions about is our Professional Aviation and Flight Technology program, or we call that PAFT for short. There is an additional application for that. And then that is one program that is kind of an exception to the test score, for our test score policy, and you would have to submit either an SAT or ACT test score for that program. And then there is an additional, it's a 350 to 500 word essay that you would fill out in our scholarship system called the branch. You would fill that out, and then that's your additional application to that PAFT program. And then once you're admitted, there are a couple other programs like our nursing program where you would have to apply to that separately, but that's something you would do when you're at Indiana.
Are those programs that students would apply to their first year, or would they have to wait to apply for those programs?
Good question. So our Professional Aviation and Flight Technology is something you can apply to now as a high school senior. And then the nursing program you would apply when you're a freshman at Indiana State, as I understand it.
Thank you. So another topic that we had several questions submitted about was financial aid. and scholarships. That is always a big question mark with families because of the process and all of the details that go into that. Do you all mind talking, Regina and Zach, a little bit about what that process looks like, and maybe if there are any important dates or deadlines that students and families need to be aware of?
Yeah.
Love to. I know that there was I think a question that we saw that a student may be a start. So I'll talk about if you're starting in January with us. So the FAFSA is key. We encourage every single student, every family to complete their FAFSA, mainly just as a safety net. So if you're like, oh, I know I won't receive any aid, still do it. It's really nice to have that, like I said, as a safety net. For our FAFSA, depending on the time you plan to start, which FAFSA you complete. So for my January starts, you actually complete the 1920 year FAFSA. So that's last year's FAFSA, because it includes this academic term. And did I say the long term? FAFSA is real fun because it has different years. So I'm even write it down and make sure I tell you the right ones. Did I say that right, Zach? Is it 1920 or is it 2021?
I believe it's the 20 to 21. I could be wrong.
You are accurate, sir. So I apologize. Yes, it's 2021. It covers the year that it starts. So fall 20 and goes into spring of the 21. So for anyone who's starting in January of 2021, you'll be 2021 FAFSA. Do you see how fun that is? Now that is, like I said, it starts in the fall, so August, and it covers you all through the summertime into July. And so in August of the next year, that's when you do your next one. So for any of the students who begin in fall, so August, you will be completing the 21-22 FAFSA. So scribble that down. The FAFSA becomes available October. So students can complete the 21-22 FAFSA now. For our students who start in January, that FAFSA has been available for a year, but when you go in, you want to make sure you're clicking the right one, that you do the previous year's application. So in terms of important dates, if you are within the state of Indiana, the deadline for completing that is April 15th. If you are an out-of-state student, you have through July to complete your FAFSA. For our in-state student, you have this deadline because of our state aid process. So it happened to be a 21st Century Scholar, for example. You really want to pay close attention and complete that process on time so that you can receive that award. And if you're eligible for any other state aid, it's imperative that you can meet that deadline so you can receive those awards. I will tell you that we will, for students who are starting in the fall, we'll start releasing what we call financial aid notification letters, FANs for short. Their estimated cost of attendance based on the information we receive FAFSA. We will start releasing those in mid-January. So at that point, you'll get a nice little packet of mail. Looks very similar to our admit packet if you received one of those. It'll have all the information outlined that we have based off your FAFSA information, but we'll also include any scholarships you may have received at time of admission. Zach, do you talk about our scholarship process?
Upon admission, depending on your GPA, you are considered for our merit-based scholarships. And like I said, those are awarded based on your GPA. If you have a 3.0 and above, then those are automatically awarded to you, and then those will be included in your admissions packet when that's sent to you in the mail. But we do have several scholarship opportunities available in the branch, our scholarship system, like I mentioned before. And those are open now. There's over 900 opportunities you can apply to. So what you do is once you're admitted, you'll activate your student account, and then you'll log into the branch, and then you'll fill out it's called a general application. It's kind of a lengthy application because it wants to get as much information about you as possible so it can match you to as many scholarships as possible. And then after you complete that, it'll show you what you're eligible for. And then that's kind of how scholarships work in a nutshell. There are also a few, so if you were admitted before December 1st, there are a few competitive scholarships, including our President's Scholarship, which is a full tuition and full room and board scholarship available. you can apply for that. And it's called an interview day application. So you'd fill that out. There's an essay in the branch. Did I miss anything?
Do students need to be admitted first before they can see all of those opportunities in the branch?
They need to be admitted to apply to them, but not to see them. You can just log on to the branch. It's indstate.edu/scholarships and click the big branch button, and then you can see all of those that are available. But like I said, to apply, you will need to be admitted.
Awesome. So once the FAFSA is submitted, can families or students go back into their application and make amendments or any changes if something needs to be changed? Is that possible after submission?
Yes.
Yes, they can.
Is there a deadline is there a deadline that those changes have to be made by?
Yeah, there is. So that's actually a good point, because the big goal is to get it submitted on time. So when you get for Indiana residents, April 15th, you get admitted, and then you're like, oh, I made a little mistake. You're submit. So that's the positive. They have that information, but you go back in and make any change that you need to. It's typically by, I want to say it's July 30th, the end of July is typically when you have to have all this completed before the term starts.
Awesome. Thank you all. So kind of backtracking a little bit back to academics, can you talk a little bit about maybe a couple of our more popular programs, what students tend to like to apply to, and if any of our acceptance rates depend upon their major? Talk a little bit about what that looks like.
Sure. So, oh goodness, we have a few programs that are pretty popular. Of course, our aviation program is a great program because you get to fly a plane, you get to fly a whole plane, which is really awesome. Our nursing program is, of course, really popular, and that's pretty unique in that, of course, we are a fairly mid-sized university. I think we're maybe a little on the smaller end of this mid-size kind of spectrum, if that's a phrase. So we may not have as many students applying to our nursing program to get in, so your likelihood of being able to get in on the first try is pretty good. So that's certainly something. I'm trying to think, what else are some of our really popular ones?
I'll hop in real quick, and I would say probably in terms of its sheer size, our criminology, our School of Criminology and Cybersecurity Studies is hands down one of the more popular programs. And I happen to see a little note come through that say, talk about forensics. That is included in that. And so for that program, students who are interested in maybe going into like to be a police officer, students who are interested in anything like security related. One of their newer programs is their intelligence analysis program. So students who are interested in kind of anything, I joke and say CSI. I was talking about CSI. If that's your favorite show, or you like Law and Order, things like that, and this is a fabulous program for you, you'll definitely get some knowledge and experience there. Now, it's not all like the TV, we can't all be walking in the wind looking good, but it's definitely a great program if you want to be part of your community and like law enforcement, like I said earlier, or we have students who are interested in going to FBI, working DNR. That's a really great program for you to go into. And it's also a program for like if you're interested in getting into grad school as well. So nice stuff.
So speaking of grad school and graduate programs, we did have a question or two about direct admission into our graduate programs. Are there any undergraduate programs that offer that direct admission, or is it all application based?
There are a few undergraduate programs. Oh, did you want to go ahead?
Go ahead.
There are a few undergraduate programs, for example, our nutrition program, where it's not a direct admission, but based on how you, perform in the major, I think in your junior year, you can apply for the grad program. We do offer, like I said, there are a few select majors that offer like a 4+1. So you do some, you do your 4 years of undergraduate work, and then you take an additional year, and then you'd finish up like taking some master's classes, and then you would have your bachelor's degree and your master's degree. There are a few select programs. I think biology is one that does that as well.
So, and we have a question that just came in asking about a physical therapy program, if we offer a physical therapy program.
Yes, we do.
Yes, and that is a doctorate level program that you would start right after your undergraduate studies. So, all right. So AJ, I'm going to bring you into the conversation, and we are going to talk a little bit about COVID. Because I know that is obviously a topic on everybody's mind right now, but particularly, our families who are getting ready to send their students off to college and send them away. Do you mind talking a little bit about some of the adjustments that ISU has made about, with the whole COVID situation and those adjustments that we've had to make in the classroom and then out of the classroom as well?
Absolutely. So I was on a call with deans of students from around the Midwest recently, and everyone joked that the new title for deans of students should be the deans of COVID, because that seems to be what most of us are doing. So yes, so we've done a lot of things in the last few months. Clearly, as with everyone, we are adapting sometimes rapidly to what's going on at state and federal levels. But some things that we've done, and I'm going to talk specifically about fall semester. Obviously, in the spring semester, we had to make some adjustments on the fly because of Indiana doing a stay-at-home order. But I want to talk specifically about what we've done this academic semester, which is that we had a lot of faculty transition to remote or hybrid classes. So, and making sure that our class sizes were small. ISU tends towards smaller class sizes than lots of other institutions anyway, but we wanted to make sure that we were lessening our that potential exposure. Now, I will say, as the person that's overseeing COVID, what we know right now is classroom exposure is not where these things are happening. They're happening at gatherings. So I'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things that we did do was we asked, even for our face-to-face classes, for instructors to limit those sizes to about half their class size in the classroom at any given time to help reduce. So that's where that hybrid model came in. So we're doing a lot of some folks in the class today and other people online today, and then switching that over so that everyone in those face-to-face opportunities had that opportunity. So we did adapt in our classroom. We also upfront told folks that we were at Thanksgiving, we were going to ask our students to leave campus and essentially finish the semester remotely. So we're in that period right now where our students, most of our students went home the week before Thanksgiving and are finishing out their last 2 weeks. This is what we call study week at ISU, and then finishing their finals remotely. So we saw a lot of adaptation in our academics. From the social standpoint, we've done a lot of things in limiting face-to-face activities. So for instance, how big of a group you could have. We weren't having any kinds of events over 25 people indoors, those kinds of things, doing those limitations. Wearing face coverings in all of our buildings. That includes classroom spaces, that includes our common areas, that includes the common areas of the residence halls. So the only place people aren't wearing their face coverings is in their own private offices when they are alone in their office, or in their own private residence hall room when they are in their residence hall room with just their roommates. So we're asking everyone to wear their masks except for when they are literally alone. So those are some of the things we've done. There are lots of other small things. We've moved a lot of our student affairs programming and event planning to virtual online. And then again, having much more smaller intentional events. And we've asked our student organizations to do that as well. So you don't see large scale programming or events happening, but we are face to face, but we are still doing those virtually and remotely and finding ways to engage students that way. There are a lot of things that we've done. We are also doing our own contact tracing here on campus to make sure that our students are as safe as possible in the midst of this crisis. So in the midst of this pandemic. So know that that is another thing that we are doing. And we have also worked with our local health provider to make sure that there is some limited testing available on campus, as well as making sure that our students have access to COVID testing in the community if they would like that. So we've made a lot of adaptations. We are constantly listening to the CDC, listening to the state, and listening to the county about what makes the most sense for how we approach this situation.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember too, like, you know, it's December. We don't know what's going to happen in a month or 2 months or 3 months. We really don't know what's going to happen next August. But it is also important to know, like AJ mentioned, that we are really closely following those county, city, you know, national guidelines and recommendations from the CDC and from the state, and as always, the safety of our students and staff and faculty is always of the utmost importance. You know, and I have to give kudos to our students and their response during this whole situation. I think has just been really remarkable. You know, it's something that I think is an institution that we can be really proud of, how they've responded and you know, really taken into account the seriousness of it and the importance of the safety and guidelines that we've put into place.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Our students have been amazing. I all the time say especially to our first year students, I can't imagine what it would have been like to have my first year in college be a first year like this. It's why we're trying very hard to connect one-on-one with them. And again, they've been spectacular, really working through this while trying the best to have a really exceptional first year of college or senior year of college, either way. You know, I think that I am impressed by them all the time. It's again, why I say our best thing about ISU is our students, hands down.
Definitely. So we did just have a question to kind of build off of the COVID topic about what our residence halls are doing right now. Do you mind talking a little bit about the policies within or for those students who are living on campus?
Yeah, we did stick to having double occupancy unless a student requested a single occupancy. Because of COVID, so for the most part, most of our students did still share a room. What our Res Life staff, who are phenomenal, spent a lot of time talking to students about was essentially your roommate is your new family. So, you know, just like in your family home situation, you all would be already close contacts with each other. So having those conversations about risk and those things, we have done a lot. Res Life has done a lot of amazing work educating our in-hall residents. I will also note that one of the things, and I didn't talk about this earlier, is one of the things that we did put into place are some significant COVID regulations around what students could and couldn't do around things like guests. For instance, we have limited, there are no guests allowed in any of our residence halls. That includes other students. So if I'm going to use a specific building, if they don't live in Jones, they can't go into Jones Hall. So we've done that very specifically in order to sort of, again, keep that, thinking of our roommate, the person that I am sharing my room with, as my family, as my pod, and no one else can be in that pod space where we're deep face covered. So thinking about that. And so that's what we've done in our res halls, and we've taken that pretty seriously, both the face covering policy and the guest policy this semester. I did see that there was a question about mental health support and support systems. Is that okay to move to that?
Absolutely.
So I have to say that probably the most important thing that we have recognized always, but it has become even more pressing in this moment of this pandemic is the need for counseling support systems. Our student counseling center is spectacular, and they are indeed doing, students can still see a counselor in person, though we have moved predominantly to Zoom counseling so that our students do have access. And again, so they are limiting their exposure, but also it means that some of our students who are currently fully remote and living at home in Indy, for instance, have access to their counselor still here on campus. So there is significant from our student counseling center. We also have 2 other counseling units on our campus because of academic programs, doctoral programs, and master's programs in counseling and psychology that allow students to be seen there as well. So we do have those supports. We also have a program called Sycamore's Care, which is essentially a referral service run out of my office to make sure that students have support systems in place so they can connect with one of us to have that ongoing support system from a student affairs professional, but also getting them connected to the resources that they need, like our counseling center.
So thank you, AJ. I'm going to kind of go back to academics just for a minute because we did have several questions from families about our honors college and what that looks like and those opportunities that it presents to students. So Zach or Regina, do you mind talking a little bit about the Honors College, about their application process and maybe what some of the benefits are for students who are a part of that college?
Yeah, sure. So in order to be admitted to our Honors College, you need one of 4 things. You either need a 3.7 out of a 4.0 GPA, or I believe it's an 1170 SAT and a 24 ACT, or be in the top 10% of your class. If you have any of those, then you can be on our Honors College. Congratulations. And that is just as simple as marking a checkbox on your application. So you mark the checkbox, you're in. As in terms of like opportunities that are available, you would, instead of taking certain university core classes, you would take some honors core classes. And then some of those kind of count for like multiple university core classes. So you would actually end up taking 4 classes instead of 6, which is definitely an advantage. I think you would get to live in Pickerel Hall in the Honor Living Learning community. That here is lovely. Trying to think of other things. There are honors only study abroad sections that you can participate in, as well as you can, of course, many students can do this, but you can participate in undergraduate research projects too, with either honor specific professors or professors in your major or professors who work in a department that you dislike. You can participate that way too. So yeah, our Honors College is definitely a really great resource on campus and a really great kind of opportunity to be a part of.
If I add a little bit, you know, I always think of the Honors College as a place where students can, you know, if you took honors courses or AP courses in high school, it's a great way to continue that rigor if you enjoyed that. As weird as that sounds, if you enjoyed the rigor, the discussion, if you really enjoy that environment, the Honors College is a perfect place for you. Of course, college in general, you know, provides that extra level of rigor, but it's about working with the Honors College. I think they do a really nice job of connecting students who have similar thought process. Well, not necessarily all similar thought processes, but you know, a great opportunity to meet students who are on that level as you, who want to think outside the box. You know, have more discussion-based courses. The classes that you can choose as well are pretty awesome. Some specialty things that are specific to the Honors College. So it's just a really great opportunity to kind of continue that special line of education that maybe you had in school into college. So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and we did receive a question, once you're accepted into the Honors College, do you need to reapply each year? You do not need to reapply.
And I will say that we have really awesome Honors College staff. Students speak very, very highly of our staff, and Dr. Greg Beerley, who's the Dean of the Honors College, is just incredible. So another advantage to being a part of the Honors College is being able to interact and build those relationships with their faculty and staff. So one of the hallmarks of ISU, I really think, is our diversity and inclusiveness on campus. I think it's one of our greatest points of pride, that's to be able to offer students not only a quality education, but also that overall experience that is diverse and is inclusive to all of our students. We had some questions about some of the programs and programming that we offer around diversity and inclusion. So AJ, do you mind just sharing a little bit about those programs and those opportunities for students?
Absolutely. So first, from a campus-wide perspective, we do have an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion that really does a lot of programming specifically, I'll be honest, specifically geared to our faculty and staff to help our faculty and staff become more culturally competent in working with students, doing series like our culturally relevant pedagogy series to help our faculty learn how to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion topics into their coursework, and being more open to different backgrounds and opinions and the way that they approach their coursework. So that's from a really big perspective. And I think that's important that we do that, and that we're asking our faculty and staff to think about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the classroom, in their programming, in their offices. And then on campus, we have particularly in the Division of Student Affairs, 2 offices that work very specifically around issues of diversity, equity, and justice. And that is our Charles E. Brown African American Cultural Center, which was founded in 1972. And it was actually founded by student activism, which is, for me, as someone who does student affairs, and for me as someone who teaches student activism, that's part of what I do in my life. That is so exciting that our center was founded because students asked for it. And not only did students ask for it, we as an institution heard that and said, of course we should have an African American Cultural Center. It is named after the long-term 30-year career director, Dr. Charles E. Brown. And so I think that's important. They are an amazing office led by a new director, Dr. Tiffany Reed, who came to us this summer, kind of August, who is doing phenomenal work. We have some great programs out of our African American Cultural Center around mentorship and helping students transition to a campus like ISU, like our I Succeed program, our MAPS program, which is a mentoring program, and then other groups like our BASA Brothers of, oh gosh, I just lost the acronym of, it's a great scholarship program, Brotherhood of, I want to say Sensational Scholars, but that's not the right S. Someone will think of the S. This is why I should write these things down that I'm going to say.
Is it successful?
Successful, thank you. Scholars. So organizations like that. So that's our African American Cultural Center. We also have multicultural services and programs, which does a significant amount of programming events around issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. They also oversee 4 other centers, our Women's Resource Center, our LGBTQ Resource Center, La Casita, which is for Hispanic, Latino, Chicano students, and then our International Student Resource Center. Now, all of these centers, all of these entities do programming for all of our students. They're welcoming and open for everyone. Our hope is that everyone engages with the programs and events and centers to learn around these things, but there are also ways to support our students who come from minoritized and marginalized backgrounds, as well as doing that broader education and support. So we have a really robust approach to supporting our students. We also, that's just the offices. We have so many student organizations related to identity, related to people's backgrounds, cultural, from our international student organization to our Sisters 2 organization, to you name it, our Saudi Arabian Student Union. Like, we have a lot of amazing student organizations doing justice work. We also, in our residence halls, have social justice educators who are doing work in our residence halls to help our students understand diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sorry, I could talk about that stuff for like the next 4 hours and probably not stop talking. So I will stop talking though now.
Thank you, AJ. So to kind of start to close us out, we had several questions from families about just the overall experience of our first year students in terms of support services, resources, programs that are available for first year students. And I want to get all of your inputs in on this about not only those services that are available to our first year students, but just in general, maybe what students can do even now to prepare for college, right? And to prepare for life away from their family, those steps that they can begin to take now. So Zach, do you want to start us off? And then, like I said, I do want to get all of your inputs in on this.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of start off. I'm trying to think of some experiences to touch on. Definitely keeping in touch with your mentors that you currently have in high school is great. Ask them about their college experience, different tips and that kind of thing. Especially your teachers as well. They're going to have a lot to say about how to best succeed in college. If you haven't already, definitely learn how to study because you're going to need that in college for real. Very rare that you can just walk into a test and ace the whole thing. It doesn't really happen in college. Just the material is it's very different, and you just have to really be ready to learn. And I think also to just for both families and students is to just keep an open mind. This is going to be a really big transition for you. Transitioning from going to high school, every day of the week to, you're kind of going to be on your own. You're going to live on your own in a residence hall. Of course, you'll have friends that you'll have your roommate, of course. But it's kind of, it's a very different time, but it's also a really exciting time. So definitely be looking forward to it. So I think that's kind of what I have to say. College is great. So yeah, hope that helps.
I can go next. I would say, I feel like for families, the families are fabulous advocates for students. Like, they will go to bat for them, front and center, like that they're advocates. My students, though, we have to find our voice. We have to learn to find our voice, and it is scary. Sometimes it can be intimidating. You don't know your way, but a little saying my mama taught me, my mother taught me, is a closed mouth does not get fed. So what that means is, if you need something, even if you feel like the question is not, it's a dumb question, or you're nervous asking it, please, please, please ask anyone around you, because you'll learn to then ask for help, which is a hard thing in and of itself. But as soon as you start asking for help and actually utilizing that help, you'll become, you'll feel more confident. You'll be able to navigate these new processes on your own, and you can carry that confidence and that skill when you graduate college into the real world, as we all love to call it. It's a skill that is definitely learned. You don't wake up and are perfect at it. There's moments when I am learning how to ask for help and navigate different systems, but definitely start now. Start advocating for yourself. Talk with your faculty, your teachers, like Zach said. Talk to your mentors about that. How did they learn to advocate for themselves and ask questions and work through things that are a little bit difficult? Because when you come to college, we have policies in place that sometimes that will prevent us from talking to your family and your parents and your guardians. And so if you ever hit that roadblock where we are unable to talk to someone on your behalf, you have to you have to handle that work on your own, and you want to be ready and willing to do that. Definitely start learning to advocate for yourself. But then as you're learning to do that, when you start talking to people about various things, listen to them, like learn to be a great listener, and then learn to, as I like to say, regurgitate that information back. Because once you learn how to explain what is being explained to you, that means you understand and you walk away knowing what you need to do, knowing the information. So become an advocate for yourself, learn that process, and then learn to be a great listener and learn to understand.
I think those are all spectacular pieces of advice. And I know that one of the questions that Debbie asked, sort of the first part of that question, was what are the resources that exist? And I think that it goes with exactly what Zach and Regina are talking about, which is you have to learn those skills, but also we have to remember that we have a lot of resources to support our students on campus. Everything from our accessibility resource office, who can help our students with disabilities, to things I've already mentioned, to the Math and Writing Center. Like, seriously, my guess is if a student needs support in an area, we have an office that can help them do that. One of the things that I often say is, if you don't know where to get help, call the Office of the Dean of Students and we will help you figure out who the best resource is. It's part of what our role is, but know that, like, we have so many resources on this campus, and often I'm not going to say they go unutilized, but often they're not as well utilized by many of our students because they don't know to ask for help. They don't know who to ask. So the most important thing is know that there are resources available, and they do all of those things that we're talking about. They can help you learn how to mediate difficult conversations and all of those things. And then, as a first gen student, I think all those self-advocacy pieces are super important. But the thing that I wish someone had reminded me of when I went to college, and I'm going to say it, is college is your full-time job. And this has to become the rhetoric and the way that you look at it and the way that you think about it, both as families, but also as students, because one of the things, and college is what you make it. It truly is. What you put into it is what you get out of it, both class-wise and all the social aspects. So the more you give, the more you get out of it on all those levels. But it is a full-time job. And if we can think about it from that framework, I think it helps. It would have certainly helped me, the person who sometimes didn't I wrote many a 25-page papers the night before they were due. I'm not saying that was successful. I did it. I passed. I have a PhD now, so clearly it worked okay. But don't be AJ. Like, think about it from the framework of this is how you start building those really good habits, is to think about this as the work that you're doing, and as setting you on that path for success. And then remember your resources. I certainly don't try to do the conduct role. That's not my role. I'm the Dean of Students. Conduct isn't my specialty. So, like, remembering those resources for our students is really important.
Absolutely. I know I can only echo what you all have said, and in my experience with working with both students and families, I think the biggest piece of advice that we can give students is, like you all have mentioned, is that learning how to ask for help, and knowing that it's okay to ask for help, really learning how to advocate for yourselves. And as a family member, you're going to be their biggest support person and you're going to be their biggest encourager. But it's also learning how to do that maybe from a distance, and teaching your students, how to do those everyday things that will make them successful, and use those resources, find their people when they get on campus, because that's going to be another really important thing that they can do, is just to find their community and find their group here on campus who can support them and be there for them, and who are experiencing a lot of the same things. So thank you all for those suggestions, and that was some great Great advice. So we are coming to the end of our time for our webinar. I do want to thank AJ, Regina, and Zach for being here with us tonight. You all have given a lot of information and a lot of great suggestions in terms of what this process looks like for families, from admissions to financial aid to student life. So thank you all for being a part of this conversation and being willing to answer all of those questions for us. If you did submit a question and we did not answer it tonight, I will be following up with all of our attendees and people who registered to attend, just to make sure that you all are comfortable with everything, and just to check in with y'all, make sure that you don't have any other questions, or find out how we can help in any other way. We also recorded this webinar and we'll make it available on our website as well. So if you need to go back and re-watch any part of it, you are more than welcome to do that. But like I said, I will be following up with everyone following this. So look out for that in your email, and we are more than happy to continue the conversation with you all on a one-on-one basis and answer any questions that you all might still have. But thank you again for joining us tonight. I do hope you enjoy your evening and enjoy your weekend, and we will see you again soon, hopefully. Thank you.